So I asked one of my nerd friends, one of these analytic companies, not going to name names, but I said, hey, I would go all in on Trey Hendrickson to the Titans. And my nerd friend said to me, he goes, that's great, but Hendrickson might get tagged. He said the reason PFF thinks 1 year, $21 million for Hendrickson is because they think Cincinnati's going to tag him. And I said, Cincinnati's not going to tag Trey Hendrickson, is he? Because Cincinnati last year got into this huge fight with Hendrickson over his contract, and it was because they didn't want to pay him $30 million a year. And if they tagged him, they'd have to pay him 1 year, $30 million. And again, this is the Bengals we're talking about here. The Bengals, the cheapest organization in all of football. I believe that if Cincinnati had been offered a 1 or a 2 for Hendrickson last year, then they would have done it before getting into the tag and everything else. Now, I think there's a market to pay Hendrickson, but I don't think there's a market to give up a pick for Hendrickson, a good one, and then pay Hendrickson. Which takes me to the what-if game. I've told you, if Hendrickson gets to the market, I'd make a 3-year, $90-something million offer. I'd be willing to go to $32, $34 million a year. I'd guarantee the first 2 years if I have to in order to get Trey Hendrickson. But if Cincinnati tags Hendrickson, that's really not the end of the world. Because yesterday I was sitting there talking to my nerd friend, and I said, what about T'Vondre Sweat? And then this morning, I don't know if my nerd friend talked to Yahoo Sports, but Yahoo Sports had a headline about potential deals for Trey Hendrickson. This, I guess, is SB Nation. And this is Matthew Minich who wrote this. And he wrote it this morning at 6 a.m. talking about a potential tag and trade for Trey Hendrickson. And the first name that they came up with was T'Vondre Sweat. According to this blog, Trey Hendrickson and McKinley Jackson, I don't even know who that is, and I don't need McKinley Jackson, but whatever. Trey Hendrickson and McKinley Jackson for T'Vondre Sweat. They write, the Tennessee Titans have deep pockets and are not afraid to make a move. The Bengals targeted T'Vondre Sweat as a potential target at nose tackle back in 2024, but with the Titans taking him with the 38th pick, they settled for McKinley Jackson 62 picks later. Sweat is coming off of an extraordinary year in Tennessee. What? Whatever. Sweat is coming off of an extraordinary year in Tennessee, where he clogged up the middle and accumulated 21 tackles and 2 sacks. The 362-pounder will turn 25 this summer and is under contract for 2 more seasons. The Bengals may need to add a day 3 pick to make this work, but don't undersell how much value Hendrickson could have as a player who could have / should have won the Defensive Player of the Year award in 2024. Sold. And this is along the same lines of thinking I had, which is when it comes to making a trade for a tagged player. I talked about this with Sam Darnold last year, that I would have asked Minnesota to tag him, and I would have traded for him to make sure that I got him. If Cincinnati tags Hendrickson, what they're saying, I assume, is we're open for business. Again, I don't think there's a first-round pick or a second-round pick out there for Trey Hendrickson, knowing that you have to pay Trey Hendrickson once you acquire Trey Hendrickson. He's not going to be happy playing on the franchise tag, and I get it. So Cincinnati tags him, and they want something in return, but nobody's going to offer a first or a second-round pick. T'Vondre Sweat is a former second-round pick. And T'Vondre Sweat is a former second-round pick who does not fit what this Tennessee Titans coaching staff wants to do. Now, I still think he can be on the team if you don't find a taker, and that there will be situations, goal line, 3rd and short, where you'll definitely want T'Vondre Sweat in the game. But if Cincinnati's calling around looking for a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick or something so that they get something more than a comp pick in exchange for Trey Hendrickson, Why not T'Vondre Sweat? And we know T'Vondre Sweat fits what the Bengals want to do because the Bengals had DJ Reader, who was the good version of T'Vondre Sweat. Big, fat, dependable, run-stuffing nose tackle. And then they let him go when he got to be too expensive. Sweat might be lazy. Sweat might be fat. Sweat might have no motivation. But the Bengals don't care about that. What they care about is money. And Sweat's not expensive. So, as much as I hate the idea of the Bengals trading, trying to trade Trey Hendrickson, as much as I hate the idea of Cincinnati tagging him because, oh, God, now I got to give up something for him. The Titans don't really have a use for T'Vondre Sweat anyways, so fuck it. I think that's a great trade. And apparently, I'm not the only one who thinks that. So we went through the DJ Moore trade. Here is the Trey Hendrickson trade. The Bengals get T'Vondre Sweat. And this is what I call narrative season. In narrative season, it doesn't actually matter if T'Vondre Sweat's that good. What matters is that you can sell yourself, you can sell your owner, and you can sell your fans on the fact that, hey, we're acquiring a former second-round pick who had a good rookie season, who's a good run-stuffing DT, who just doesn't fit what the new coach in Tennessee wants to do. But this guy, he's an impact player, and so it's better than a third-round comp pick next year for Trey Hendrickson to get T'Vondre Sweat this year. Fine, whatever makes you feel better. You get T'Vondre Sweat, I get Trey Hendrickson on the franchise tag, and then I go and give him a 3-year, $90 million contract, $60 million, $55 million, somewhere in that ballpark guaranteed, $40 million in cash in the first year, and on you go. So now I've got Simmons, Hendrickson, and I've told you I want to probably draft one of these guys at the top, and you get your big fat run-stuffing DT to replace DJ Reader, and you are now done with Hendrickson. You don't have to pay Hendrickson. You don't have to pay Sweat. You don't have to do any of that. And you guys in Cincinnati can go on and have the 27th ranked defense and lose all these games with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I love it. And so, again, I'm just telling you, when it comes to Trey Hendrickson, I don't care how I have to get him, short of trading away a first-round or second-round pick. I probably wouldn't trade a third-round pick either. It's because I need young players on the team. And I understand the risks that are associated with Trey Hendrickson. People are saying, oh, great, Jared says dependable, accountable, reliable, and now he wants a guy who missed 10 games last year. Yes, because the core muscle surgery is not one of those injuries that is expected to linger. He's a 17-game-a-year guy. He's an incredibly competitive guy. He's a team leader. He's an incredibly productive guy. I mean, this is the guy. I'm taking the risk on the age at 31 and the risk on the injury last year in order to acquire Trey Hendrickson to make my defense better so that Cam Ward in turn will be better. That's what I'm doing. And that's the risk, and I'm willing to take it. So there's now a lot of talk that Cincinnati might tag him, which is crazy. Because, again, last year he and Cincinnati, I feel like they went 12 rounds in the ring. And finally, Cincinnati did things that other teams won't do. Cincinnati, same with the other pass rusher they drafted, they just held their ground. And when it came to Hendrickson, they were like, you know what? Screw it. You lose your money. And we're the Bengals, so we will be taking that money from you, and you know that. And finally said, okay, fine, I'll come back. Well, here, he gets his contract. Respected as one of the top pass rushers in the league financially. Here you go. I do think Trey Hendrickson is exactly what this team needs. And when it comes to but Jared, do we need older veteran players? There's just not that many impact players you can get under the age of 25 years old who are available in the NFL because those guys sign contracts with their teams. That's why you can't get Jamar Chase. That's why you can't get Justin Jefferson. That's why you can't get Brock Bowers. So every guy you're going to go after, and there's a little something there. And with him, to me, it's the age and it's the injury last year. And TDG says, hurt players stay hurt. Remember, Jared, Trey Hendrickson is not exempt. Yes and no. Like, I don't expect Drake May to stay hurt because of the shoulder injury that he suffered at the end of this past season. That's an injury that gets better. Same with Cam Ward. I'm not sitting here telling you Cam Ward's injured. It's not, because I went to the Super Bowl and the Pro Football doc told me, don't worry about that injury. Now, when it's someone who's always got an injury one way or another, that person is always going to stay injured. Somebody who's always injured in college gets to the NFL, they're always Hendrickson's a 17-game-a-year guy. Tom Brady tore his ACL once. But Tom Brady was a 17-game-a-year guy. There's a difference. TDG says, newsflash, you built through the draft, Jared. Okay, so how did the New England Patriots build? You're going to tell me the New England Patriots built through the draft because they drafted Drake May and they drafted Will Campbell. And I guess they drafted Christian Gonzalez. What about everybody else? What about Milton Williams? What about Stephon Diggs? What about Hunter Henry? What about Harold Landry? What about Carlton Davis? What about 90% of that team outside of Drake May? Here's what you do. In order to help a young quarterback succeed, you get a defense and you run the ball. You shorten the game and you lower the score. And then you ask that young quarterback to make a couple of plays a game to win you the game. That's what Drake May did in New England. They had a great defense. That's what I'm going to do here. I am going to try to win the game because that's what builds confidence in a quarterback. Winning. Very few quarterbacks, they exist, but very few quarterbacks earn reputations based on throwing for 5,000 yards in a season. It really comes down to winning. And that's what Cam Ward needs to do this year. Win some games. So that's where I sit. When it comes to building around Cam Ward, I want a defense and I want a running game. And then we can add playmakers as we go. When it comes to the impact players of the future, that's the draft. That's why I wouldn't trade a second-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. That's why I'm going to trade T'Vondre Sweat, a guy I don't have a use for on this football team. Give me a break. Draft, develop, retain. Free agency, bad. No, signing L'Jarius Sneed is bad. I thought about doing the corner board today, and then I looked at the corners, and Robert Saleh, the way they play defenses, it reminds me of the old Titans defenses under Greg Williams and Jim Schwartz, where it's like, go get him, Javon Curse. Go get him, Albert Hainsworth. Go get him, Kyle Vandenbosch. Go get him, Kevin Carter. And then we're going to drop back in coverage. So I don't need to pay a high-priced DB to come in here when I can just go sign starting caliber DBs and then go say, go get him Trey Hendrickson, go get him Jeffrey Simmons, go get him David Bailey. That's what I'm doing.